Have you ever watched a movie like Asterisk Braveheart, Asterisk or Asterisk Kingdom of Heaven, Asterisk, and thought, yeah, I could do that? You see the glorious charges, the heroic last stands, and you imagine yourself right there, a hero of the medieval age. Well, I'm here to burst that bubble, because the reality is, you, me, and pretty much everyone watching this video probably would outlast a single minute on a real medieval battlefield. And I'm not just talking about getting hit with a sword. The whole experience was a sensory nightmare designed to break you before the fighting even started. Let's set the scene. Forget the sweeping orchestral scores you hear in movies. The first thing that hits you isn't a sword, it's the sound. Imagine thousands of men screaming, not just battle cries, but screams of pure, unadulterated terror. Then add the gut-wrenching sound of metal hitting bone, the wet thud of an axe finding its mark, the shrieks of wounded horses. Above it all, the constant, deafening blare of war horns and drums, designed specifically to disorient you and keep your adrenaline jacked up to unbearable levels. Your ears would be ringing, your head pounding. You wouldn't be able to hear commands or the guy next to you shouting a warning. It's just chaos. Pure, terrifying noise. Then comes the smell. Oh, the smell. This isn't something movies can ever convey. We're talking about the coppery, metallic scent of blood, so thick in the air you can almost taste it. Mix that with the stench of thousands of unwashed bodies packed together, sweating from fear and exertion. And let's not forget the most primal smell of all, human waste. It was incredibly common for soldiers, paralyzed by fear, to lose control of their bowels. So you're standing there, in the mud, surrounded by the smell of sweat, blood, and filth. It's a full-on assault on your senses before a single enemy soldier even gets close. Now, let's talk about what you're seeing. It's not the clean, choreographed fights you see on screen. A medieval battlefield was a meat grinder. You'd see things your modern brain is simply not equipped to handle. Men cut in half, limbs severed, faces caved in by maces. You would see your friends, people you marched with for weeks, screaming on the ground, holding their own intestines. The sheer, visceral horror of it would be enough to cause a complete psychological breakdown. This wasn't a duel. It was industrial-scale butchery with hand tools. And what are you wearing? If you're lucky, you're a knight in full plate armor. Great, right, not exactly. A full suit of plate could weigh up to 60 pounds, or about 27 kilograms. Now try running, fighting, and just staying upright in that. You're slow, your vision is restricted to tiny slits, and you can barely hear anything over the sound of your own breathing and the clanking of your armor. And if you fall over, good luck getting back up. Many knights didn't die from a sword. They died from exhaustion, heat stroke, or by drowning in mud after they fell and couldn't get up. They were essentially cooked alive inside their own metal ovens. But most people weren't knights. You'd most likely be a peasant levy, a farmer or a baker handed a pointy stick and told to stand in a line. Your armor might be a padded jacket called a gambeson if you're lucky. More likely, it's just the clothes on your back. Your weapon, probably a spear or maybe a simple axe. You've had minimal training, and now you're expected to face a charging wall of armored knights on horseback, a literal medieval tank thundering towards you. The psychological pressure alone is immense. Your job isn't to be a hero. Your job is to stand there, hold the line, and probably die. Let's talk about the weapons. We have this romantic idea of sword fighting, but swords were often a secondary weapon. The real killers of the battlefield were much less glamorous. The longbow, for instance. Imagine standing in a field as thousands of arrows rained down on you. They called it arrow storm for a reason. It sounds like hissing rain, and you just have to stand there with your flimsy wooden shield and hope one doesn't find its way into your eye or throat. Then you have polearms, like halberds and pikes. These long, brutal weapons were the kings of the battlefield. They could keep a knight on horseback at a distance and could punch through armor. They weren't used for fancy dueling. They were used to hook a guy off his horse, trip him, and then let your friends finish him off while he's helpless on the ground. It was brutal, efficient, and completely devoid of honor. The goal wasn't a fair fight. The goal was to kill the other guy as quickly and messily as possible. Even if you survived the initial clash, your ordeal is far from over. Let's say you take a wound. Not a fatal one, just a deep cut on your arm from a blade that was recently hacking through someone else. In our world, you'd get stitches and antibiotics. In the medieval world, you get a festering infection. Medical knowledge was limited. Surgery often meant a painful, unsterilized amputation with a saw. Gangrene, tetanus, and sepsis were the real victors of most battles. A simple cut could be a death sentence, leading to a slow, agonizing end days or weeks after the fighting stopped. The psychological toll is something we can barely comprehend. We live in a world where violence is, for most of us, a distant concept seen on screens. These men lived it. They saw, heard, and smelled things that would give us crippling PTSD in an instant. There was no therapy, no understanding of mental trauma. You were expected to just deal with it, to bury the horror and get ready for the next battle. This constant exposure to brutality would fundamentally change a person. So, when you think about the medieval battlefield, don't picture Aragorn fearlessly charging into a horde of orcs. Picture a terrified young man standing in a muddy field, deafened by noise, sickened by the smell, watching his friends die in horrific ways, praying that the arrow storm misses him, and knowing that even a small wound could lead to a miserable death. It wasn't a glorious adventure. It was a terrifying, brutal, and short experience for most who were there. You, with your modern sensibilities and lack of experience with true, up-close violence, wouldn't last a minute. And honestly, that's a good thing. It means we live in a much, much better world. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this little trip back in time interesting, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the gritty reality of history. Let me know in the comments what historical period you'd least want to be dropped into. Stay safe, and see you next time.